Welcome back to the deep dive. This time we're going deep into some seriously strange dinosaurs. You know, when you think dinosaurs, you really picture, like, huge T-Rexes or long-necked giants.
Yeah, the classics. Big, scary, impressive.
Exactly. But the article you sent, 10 most bizarre dinosaurs, from 10 most today, well, it takes a totally different approach. We're not looking at size or ferocity here. It's all about the weirdness factor.
And trust me, there are some seriously strange dinos out there. Evolution sometimes, it takes some pretty wild turns.
No kidding. So we're going to explore 10 dinosaurs that really push the boundaries of what we think of as, well, a dinosaur.
Buckle up, because this is going to be a wild ride through the prehistoric world.
All right, first up on our list of bizarre dinos is Amargasaurus. This guy lived in the early Cretaceous, and size-wise, it wasn't a total behemoth. Maybe about 30 feet long, weighing a couple of tons.
Yeah, not exactly shaking the earth.
But here's the thing. Amargasaurus had these these massive spiky pines running down its neck. Seriously, like giant spikes.
Those spines, they're definitely the Amargasaurus's claim to fame. And they actually tie into a really interesting evolutionary concept, sexual selection.
Oh, right, the whole survival of the fittest, but with a dating twist.
Exactly. So the idea is that Amargasauruses with bigger, more impressive spines were more attractive to potential mates.
So basically, the spikier the dinosaur, the better its chances of finding love.
You got it. Think of it like a peacock's tail. It's all about showing off. Those big spines might have signaled to potential mates that this Amargasaurus was healthy, strong, good dino genes.
Prehistoric dating game on point. The article even mentioned that these spines, they might have been connected by, like, fatty tissue or skin flaps, kind of like the sail on a Spinosaurus.
Yeah, that's one of the theories out there. It really makes you wonder, right? Like, what did these things actually look like in the flesh? Were those spines rigid, or were they more flexible? We're talking major prehistoric fashion statements here.
Okay, next up on our weird dino list is Cosmoceratops. And the name itself, it sounds pretty cool, right?
Cosmo, yeah, it makes you think space, cosmic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the article says cosmo actually translates to ornate, basically meaning super fancy or decorated. And this dinosaur, well, it definitely lives up to the name.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking a psychedelic array of frills, horns, and flaps. It's like evolution just went wild with this one.
It's a dinosaur that looks like it was designed by a committee. Now, here's the interesting thing about Cosmoceratops. It lived on this isolated island in North America during the late Cretaceous, Laramidia it was called. And that isolation, well, it might explain why this dinosaur went so over the top with its look.
Right, it's like its own little evolutionary bubble. You have this population separated from the mainland, and over time you get these really unique, sometimes extreme features developing.
Next up, we have Nothronicus, and this one's a relative of those super bizarre therizinosaurs from Central Asia.
Oh yeah, those guys. The ones that look like a cross between a giant sloth and a turkey.
Exactly. They had those pot bellies and these crazy long claws. And Nothronicus, it's basically their American cousin. The article says it's the first therizinosaur ever found in North America.
Which is pretty significant. It really expanded our understanding of where these animals lived. But here's where Nothronicus gets really weird. It was a plant eater.
Wait, a plant eater? But those claws, they look like they were made for, like, tearing things apart.
Right, that's the thing. Nothronicus belonged to the theropod group. T-Rex, Velociraptor, those guys. All about the meat. But Nothronicus decided to go vegetarian.
Talk about an evolutionary curveball. So we have a family of fierce predators, and then, boom, one branch decides to go for salads.
And it makes you wonder, right, what drove that change? Was there a particular type of plant that was abundant, and Nothronicus, with its claws, could access it better than other herbivores? Evolution, it's all about adapting to your environment.
Moving on to our next contender for the most bizarre dino award. Stygimoloch. And the name itself is pretty intense. Horned demon from the demon hell.
They don't mess around with dino names, do they?
Nope. And this dinosaur, it had a head built, well, headbutting, like serious headbutting. It belonged to the pachycephalosaurs, those thick-headed dinosaurs. But even among them, Stygimoloch had a seriously thick skull.
And not just thick, but covered in all these spikes and knobs. I mean, this was the dinosaur that really took the whole headbanger look to the next level.
So what, were these guys just running around bashing their heads into each other for fun?
Well, the prevailing theory is that those bony heads were used for competition between males, probably to win mates, just like with the Amargasaurus and its spines.
So it's like prehistoric sumo wrestling, but with skulls. Ouch.
Pretty much. Though there's actually some debate about how exactly they use their heads. Some scientists think that direct head-to-head collisions might have been too damaging, even with those thick skulls.
Yeah, makes sense. Concussions weren't exactly a good look back then either.
Right, so maybe they use their heads more for like flank butting or pushing each other around like a shoving match with horns.
All right, switching gears a bit, we have Coulindrodromius. This one wasn't a headbanger or a spike enthusiast. It was an ornithopod, a plant eater. Kind of small, maybe like the size of a large dog. Not exactly the most intimidating dino on the block.
No, not at first glance, but Coulindrodromius, it actually threw a wrench into our understanding of dinosaur skin.
Okay, how so?
Well, for a long time, we thought that most early dinosaurs, especially those in the ornithischian group, the group that includes Coulindrodromius, were covered in scales, like lizards. But Coulindrodromius, it had feathers, or at least feather-like structures.
So this seemingly ordinary little plant eater was actually rocking some prehistoric plumage.
Exactly. And that was a big deal. It suggested that feathers, or at least the precursors to feathers, might have been much more common among dinosaurs than we previously thought.
Okay, next up we have Concavinator, a dinosaur that earned its spot on the bizarre list for a couple of reasons. First, it had this weird triangular hump on its back.
Yeah, that hump, it's one of those features that has paleontologists scratching their heads. We don't really know what it was for.
So a dinosaur with its own built-in mystery. What's the other weird thing about Concavinator?
It had quill knobs on its forearms, and quill knobs in theropods, they usually mean one thing: feathers.
So this guy might have had feathery arms.
Potentially, yeah. The article suggests those feathers might have been colorful, especially during mating season. However, it also points out that Concavinator was likely mostly covered in scales, similar to like an Allosaurus.
So picture this. A mostly scaly dinosaur with a strange hump on its back and maybe some fancy feathers on its arms. Definitely checks the bizarre box. All right, let's talk about Oryctodromius, a dinosaur that decided to take a different approach to survival. It was a digger.
Oryctodromius was a burrowing dinosaur, and that's unusual because, unlike a lot of burrowing animals, it doesn't seem to have had specialized claws for digging.
So how did it dig its burrows?
Well, the article suggests it probably used its long, pointy snout. Basically, it nosed its way underground.
So it was like a prehistoric bulldozer with a beak.
Kind of, yeah. It really shows you the diversity of adaptations in the dinosaur world. They weren't all about brute force or speed. Some of them, like Oryctodromius, found their niche by going underground.
Pretty clever. Now for our second to last bizarre dinosaur, we have Keensusaurus. And get this, its nickname is Pinocchio Rex.
Yeah, Pinocchio Rex because of its long snout, like really long.
It almost looks like someone stretched its face out. And that long snout wasn't just for show. The article says that female Keensusauruses seem to prefer males with longer snouts.
Again, we see that sexual selection at play. What might seem strange or even awkward to us, like an extra long snout, could have been a sign of attractiveness and good genes in the dinosaur world.
And last, but certainly not least, we have Yutyrannus, a dinosaur that really challenges our image of the classic tyrannosaurs.
Yutyrannus was a pretty recent discovery found in early Cretaceous Asia. And the big shocker, this 2-ton predator was covered in feathers.
Wait, a feathered tyrannosaur? Like a fluffy T-Rex. That's not what I pictured.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? But the evidence is there. Yutyrannus had a thick coat of feathers, likely for insulation in its cooler environment.
So even the kings of the dinosaurs, the mighty tyrannosaurs, might have had a feathery past. It really makes you think about how much we're still learning about these ancient animals.
Absolutely. These 10 bizarre dinosaurs are just a glimpse into the incredible diversity and sometimes downright weirdness of prehistoric life. And they're a reminder that evolution, it doesn't always follow a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, and sometimes it leads to some pretty unexpected results.
That's for sure. And that brings us to our final thought for you. If these dinosaurs could evolve such strange and wonderful features, what other seemingly odd adaptations in the natural world today might have surprising and important functions that we don't fully understand yet? What other secrets from the deep past are still waiting to be discovered? Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.